Nottingham Forest have been slapped with a 4-point deduction. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yes, it is the day that Nottingham Forest have been dreading for a while. It is the day where their breach of FFP and PSR rulings has come about, and the result is a 4-point deduction for Nottingham Forest, which sees them drop into the relegation zone. We're going to be talking all about this case. We're all about the aftermath of the result today and everything else in between. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and very greatly appreciated. And of course, get involved in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, on this news story in regards to Nottingham Forest and the points deduction that was always going to be coming to them, no matter what it seemed. Let me know what you guys think and feel down below in the comment section. I'm sure everything that you have to say will make for great and interesting reading, I'm sure. But without further ado, let's get on with the video. Let's talk Nottingham Forest. Let's talk the PSR rulings, FFP rulings, and everything else in between. Today it was revealed that Nottingham Forest were going to be hit with a 4-point deduction, and Premier League table wise, it means that they drop into the relegation zone. They lose 4 points. They drop below Luton Town, who are the biggest benefactors from this, and Luton climb out of the relegation zone at the expense of Nottingham Forest, who have been hit with that points deduction. We always knew it was going to be coming. As harsh as what it did seem, as much as Forest tried to defend it, we knew that it was always going to seemingly happen. One thing I've always said in regards to doing these kinds of videos, whether it be Everton in the past, whether it be about Chelsea, whether it be about Manchester City's 115 cases, which is again another overlooming sort of shadow on any of these kinds of stories that happen and take place, is that we need consistency. The Premier League should have done this years and years ago. Which is why we wouldn't have the whole Chelsea thing, we wouldn't have the whole City thing that's looming over these and tainting these kinds of stories. The Premier League should have been following this years ago, but for one reason or another, they didn't. And they didn't to the fullest extent of their abilities. And now, obviously, teams like Everton and teams like Nottingham Forest are seemingly paying for this. So, it is on the Premier League to an extent. As much as obviously the clubs themselves should obviously take accountability and obviously shouldn't have done certain things that they've obviously done, it is on the Premier League for not keeping things in check in their own house kind of thing. But overall, we all knew. We knew this was coming. We knew since January, obviously, the Premier League had seemingly found enough evidence to suggest that they should be hit with some sort of punishment for breaching certain FFP rulings and everything. And that was obviously going to be the case. And obviously after the whole Everton situation as well, in which they've obviously been deducted 10 points, reduced to 6 points, we all knew this was coming. We all knew that they were going to be hit by something and made an example of. 4 points, it's not as big, and I think Everton fans will be feeling a bit annoyed at that. And I do feel like there are maybe certain factors at play within this case that may have seen them go a little bit more lenient on Forest than they have on Everton. But overall, we knew that this kind of thing was coming. 4 points deduction today. Obviously, there is an opportunity for Nottingham Forest to appeal that. So, obviously, going forward, it could obviously stay the same. It could be reduced. Dare I say, maybe even extended. Maybe even the points deduction could be increased. It's not complete out of realms of possibility. And obviously, we don't fully know the full extent of it and how much they'll actually deep dive into it. So yeah, I mean, it's unlikely it will be increased. It will likely stay the same or be decreased, but we'll obviously have to wait and see on that. The interesting part about the appeal process is the fact that the whole sort of final say on that particular matter should, of course, Forest appeal. And judging by Forest's statement tonight, it seems that they are going to appeal. Is going to be put in place and penciled in for May the 24th. Now, for those of you who are wondering, well, why is that significant? It's because 5 days earlier will be May the 19th. And that is, I believe, when the Premier League is set to play its final game, the final game of the current campaign. So if Nottingham Forest go down on that day by a point, 2 points, 3 points, maybe even 4 points, and then on May the 24th, they get their appeal given the green light in this kind of way to be reduced by 1 point, 2 point, 3 points, or even the full 4 points, that could still play a big significance in the relegation battle. And the relegation battle is already heating up as much as it is right now. We've already got Burnley and Sheffield United. I think they're pretty much doomed, and I think they are pretty much going down. But the last relegation spot really is not up for grabs because no one wants it, but at the same time, it's still there for someone to sink into. And Forest obviously occupy that place right now due to the 4-point deduction. But who's to say by the end of the season it's not going to be... They may only be there by, like I say, goal difference or a point or two. That may get put back onto Forest total depending on how this appeal process goes. We could still be sat here a few days after the end of the season not knowing whether or not 17th place, let's say for the sake of arguing in this example, Luton, are going to go down or not because of this Forest appeal. It still could be very much up in the air with a few days being with a few days being removed from obviously football and the Premier League action that is. So there still could be some extremely late drama in terms of the Premier League relegation battle that is. So that could obviously play some heavy significance into proceedings. You've of course got the Premier League coming out with their statement on this. They say that an independent commission has applied an immediate 4-point deduction to Nottingham Forest FC for breach of the Premier League's profitability and sustainability rules for the period ending season 2022 to 2023. Nottingham Forest was referred to an independent commission on January 15th following an admission by the club that it had breached the relevant PSR threshold of £61 million by £34.5 million. The threshold was lower than £105 million, and the club spent 2 seasons of the assessment period in the EFL Championship. The case was heard in accordance with new Premier League rules, which provide an expedited timetable for the PSR cases to be resolved in the same season the complaint is issued. The Independent Commission determined the sanction following a 2-day hearing this month at which the club had the opportunity to detail a range of mitigating factors. The Commission found that the club had demonstrated exceptional cooperation in the dealings with the Premier League throughout the process. So basically just saying that they were extremely cooperative and everything. There was no problem whatsoever in Forest being cooperative. They didn't drag their heels. They didn't try and hide anything. They were extremely cooperative. But in the end, they were seemingly found guilty of breaching certain PSR threshold rulings. And the whole bulk of this video seems to revolve around the sale of Brennan Johnson. Now, we obviously know that Brennan Johnson was sold in the summer on the very last day, deadline day of that summer transfer window for £47.5 million to Tottenham. Forest argue that if they'd have sold him earlier in the window, they wouldn't have got as big a price for him as they did on deadline day, which obviously is panic deadline day signings or that kind of situation at play, which is smart on Forest's part to obviously do. And I've said it time and time again, to sell Brennan Johnson of all people for that kind of money is... You just have to stand up and applaud. You just have to stand up and applaud. It's incredible the way that they managed to get that much money for him. Tottenham bought him for £47.5 million. I wouldn't even pay 47 quid for him. But that's neither here nor there. The whole point and bulk of the story, like I say, is purely based on that sale. And the fact that Forest argue that they did have respect for the rulings and everything, but they obviously wanted to get more financial money for the club, and that's why they had to go over the deadline a little bit. I don't think they're not denying the fact that they went over the deadline a little bit, but they are saying that they did manage to recuperate even more money than what was expected of them due to that particular sale. It's interesting that everything is obviously falling out like this. It's obviously interesting the fact that the Everton case is obviously taken the turn that it has. It's obviously interesting the way that obviously this case has taken the turn that it's had. Is it going to be withheld? Is it going to be reduced? Obviously, only time will tell on that, depending on the process of the appeal. And like I say, it seems from Forest's statement that they are going to appeal. They seem to be disappointed and dismayed at the result of today's hearing. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the response from this overall is, and it's going to be very interesting to see what the overall response is from Nottingham Forest, and obviously their overall response to whether or not they get the points deduction is reduced or not, and whether or not that has a drastic effect on the bottom of the Premier League and obviously the relegation battle that is currently in play. It's very interesting to see all of that unfold before our very eyes as of right here and right now. So interesting stuff that's going on right now. Like I say, we're waiting to see if they are obviously going to going to appeal, and what kind of effect that will have at the end of the season on the Premier League relegation battle. Forest currently slip into it. They are currently in 18th. They are a point behind Luton, who obviously gain a place at their expense. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the battle at the bottom goes. And obviously we know that those two teams battled it out to a 1-1 draw on Saturday. So that point could be big significance to Luton come the end of the season. And it's going to be interesting to see just the final battle of this, what Forest's response is going to be. We saw it somewhat galvanise Everton earlier on in the campaign. Is it going to happen again with Forest? And again, everyone will point fingers at the likes of Chelsea and Manchester City, and obviously they still have their cases looming, and obviously they still have that kind of overshadowing them to a certain extent. But again, it's purely on the Premier League. It's purely on, can the Premier League keep their organisation running? Can they deal with the fires that are in house and put them out quickly? They should have done this a long time ago with City and Chelsea. This is why then teams like Forest and teams like Everton and even Leicester, who are under fear that maybe if they get promotion this season are probably going to be facing a points deduction right off the bat of returning to the Premier League. Can they get them fires put out in-house? I do feel like Forest have been taken a little bit lightly in this circumstance because of their time in the Championship, and maybe because of the sort of layer of, well, they did have the money but they didn't beat the threshold kind of thing. I'm not so sure. I don't know the full ins and outs of it, admittedly. I don't know what exactly the rulings are. But at the same time, it does make for interesting reading when you go into it, and you do obviously look at the kind of cases and the kind of for and against, and obviously why Forest are defending themselves so much, and the kind of things that Forest are putting out there to defend themselves so much. It is obviously very interesting, but it all comes down, like I say, back to the Premier League. They should have done this a long time ago with City and Chelsea, should have kept their own things in-house. We all knew things were acting suspicious with Forest anyway when they came up and they immediately signed like 40 players right off the bat in their first transfer window, or less than 40 players, but now it's gone up to 40 over the past several months or so. I'm not 100% sure, but it did seem very strange then. The Premier League need to get their house sorted out. That's why they're doing this now, but we need consistency. That is the overall arching factor into this. We need consistency. And, you know, we need consistency when it comes to all things, or the majority of things in life, and we need consistency to occur with FFP and PSR rulings. So, if that is to be the case, we need it to be as consistent as possible, and we need it to happen as swiftly as what these two cases in terms of Forest and Everton have been. So, you know, we can wait here as long as we want for Manchester City to get found out if they have been found guilty or not. We can sit here waiting for Chelsea as well. I assume we haven't heard the last of this in terms of not just Forest solely, but maybe there are other teams in play that are being currently investigated and being kept on the wraps so far. we'll obviously have to wait and see on that. That is only open for speculation right now. So there is a lot of interesting factors and things to go with this, and of course we wait and see what does happen, not just with Nottingham Forest, but with Everton as well, with City, with Chelsea, and with any other team that of course faces this kind of thing. Like I say, Leicester are probably going to be on the verge of this if they come up. That is what everybody is seemingly suggesting is going to happen if Leicester do get promotion from the Championship. So yeah, there are a lot of interesting factors to this. Forest, like I say, get hit with a 4-point deduction. I think maybe it was taken less than Everton due to the fact that they were in the Championship for a large portion of the time that was allocated to them. And obviously they did have the money, it just didn't arrive, or it didn't arrive within the certain deadline or something along them lines. But yeah, 4 points deduction for Nottingham Forest. They sink into the bottom 3. They sink into 18th, 1 place behind Luton, who are the biggest benefactors from Nottingham Forest downfall at their expense. But those are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of this whole Nottingham Forest situation? The 4 points deduction, that being everything else in between. Let me know what you guys think and feel. Your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it. Will make for great and interesting reading down below in the comment section, I'm sure. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you are new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always and probably greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I'll see you speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll speak to you all again very, very soon.